This is the sweet life. Dun, 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 dun. We've got the sweet life of Lisa Frankenstein. My name is Ben Friedman, film critic. Today I am talking the newest film, Lisa Frankenstein, directed by Zelda Williams, who some of you may know as the daughter of the late great actor Robin Williams, and this is from a screenplay from Diablo Cody. Diablo Cody, a name maybe you haven't heard in a few years. Diablo Cody is probably most famously well known for such movies as Juno, which gets her nominated. Maybe it gets her the win for Best Screenplay back in 2007. She's also worked on such films as Jennifer's Body, Young Adult. She's back with Lisa Frankenstein, which follows Lisa Frankenstein, or her name is actually Lisa Swallow. She's this girl in the 1980s. She's in this new city, basically with this brand new family. Something happens to her family. Her mother dies, and now she is basically going out to this new high school, having to basically adjust to high school life and overcome her trauma. She's kind of this goth at heart, and one day she ends up accidentally, it seems, resurrecting a creature that is played by Cole Sprouse of the Sweet Life of Zack and Cody fame. He was Cody. He's also in the Sweet Life on Deck. I should mention Lisa Swallow is played by Kathryn Newton. Maybe you've seen her in a few films recently, probably most famously either Freaky with Vince Vaughn, or most recently she was in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania as Scott Lang's daughter. I'm glad to say she is much better in this movie as Lisa Swallow than she is as Cassie Lang in the Ant-Man movies. And let's just kind of start with what I liked of this movie. And there's a few things that I really want to touch on, which let's just kind of explore the genre of this movie, Lisa Frankenstein, which my girlfriend and I were actually discussing it on the way home from the movie because we just saw it together. And how it was sold was a romantic comedy, and I think that's a little misleading. If you were to go in there thinking of a traditional rom-com, I think you'd be ill-informed. How I would describe this movie, and I'm going to use kind of a lot of adjectives and comparisons and try to get to something. I would describe Lisa Frankenstein as a Gothic coming-of-age romance that utilizes the style and look of a John Hughes backdrop, and specifically has a lot of influence from certain films, Heathers being one of the most that I felt while watching this movie. So it is a Gothic film. It does have that kind of Tim Burton-esque qualities to it. I thought a lot of Edward Scissorhands while watching this movie. It does have that classic coming-of-age story to it. It has the romantic beats of a typical romance movie. It kind of has that, even a little bit like a cheesy romance novel at times. And it's also like, one, it's set in the 1980s, so it very much has that kind of classic John Hughes feel with it, mixed with a little bit of that harder edge bite that you might see in something like Heather. So that's how I would describe Lisa Frankenstein. And I really want to say this kind of just right up front. I really enjoyed this movie for what it was. I wouldn't call this movie anything new or revolutionary. However, for the story that it told, I was engaged for the 100-minute runtime. I think there is some really big, key stuff to recommend in this movie, and I think that's really I think that's really centered with the two main performances in Lisa Frankenstein. I thought Kathryn Newton was really good in this movie. She brings a lot of the humor into this. I gravitated towards this character, the look, the style, everything about it. I just thought she brought this character to life and didn't make her too overbearingly hard edge. Like, I was able to connect with the empathy that this character was supposed to hit. And Newton has this thing as an actress where I really did feel kind of a timeless quality that she is an actress of our times in 2024. And I could have seen her in a 1980s movie and it would have worked just as well. I think she has that kind of timeless quality and beauty to her as a performer, and I think she's able to weaponize and utilize them quite effectively in Lisa Frankenstein. The big performance that I want to talk about is Cole Sprouse, which obviously I am 26 years old, which means I grew up right as Cole Sprouse was kind of becoming a big deal. Whether it's films like Big Daddy, which is maybe how people older than I would know Cole Sprouse, but if you're someone in my age, you know him from Big Daddy, but you specifically know him from The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, where he plays Cody.
How do you lose a woman?
You forget to cherish her.
And, you know, this is always a tough thing where, because when I look at and watch the film, I see him. Like, I do see Cody in it. And I know Cole Sprouse has been working since. I believe he had a stint on Riverdale. Like, he has, from my understanding, been a pretty talented actor outside of the Disney Channel. I just didn't know him outside of it. So when I'm watching the film, I do clearly see that face that I grew up watching, you know, my entire childhood. And he also showed layers to him that I didn't really know that he was going to be able to accomplish in this movie. This is essentially a retelling of the story of Frankenstein, with, again, kind of that 1980s aesthetic thrown on it. Instead of the mad scientist resurrecting someone on, you know, their lab experiment table, the resurrection comes on a tanning bed, stuff like that. Like, there are very obvious hints and cues into the Mary Shelley Frankenstein story, which is my favorite novel ever written, just as a side note. But so, obviously, with the creature, like, it's not a very talkative performance. It is very much grunting, it is very much expression, and he does a really good job, Cole Sprouse does, as portraying the creature, the monster. Like, everything that is trying to be conveyed with Frankenstein, whether it's just the experiment gone wrong, whether it's the humanity of this character, the romance that he feels, the fact that this monster can have a heart, what that says, what it's trying to convey, Cole Sprouse is in conversation with all of that as the creature in this movie. And so he's paying respect to the character of Frankenstein's monster while also giving it kind of like its own spin. And he's able to channel it, and you feel his emotion throughout. And like I said, with it being such a non-vocal performance and in him having to play it so physically big, it landed, and it really worked for me. And thus, when I'm watching Lisa Frankenstein, I overall enjoyed this movie. Am I going to go out and say that this is one of the best films that I will see this year? I'd probably not lean that. However, while watching this movie, I can say that I had a good time overall. There are some really familiar beats. There are some story beats that I think are maybe just way too familiar, where it's just like, oh, you've seen this story with the stepmom before, and that becomes a little bit less interesting, or it does just kind of fall into cliche, but I think it smartly gets itself out of those constraints quickly. So while it does fall victim to it at times, it is able to move forward. There is a little bit of that yada yada over big plot points where you're just like, wait, what's happening here? And they're just like, well, just you kind of go with it. And it works in the sense that it keeps the momentum of the 100 minutes going. It does leave you kind of, while watching the film, I did have a few moments where I was like, wait, what happened here to there? And I just kind of had to go with it and accept it. And there were just like a few scenes in it where I'm just like, it took like a few minutes to adjust to what was actually going on and kind of regain focus, because I was just so distracted on what just happened and me kind of playing catch up with the film, that I think that is a narrative fall point within the movie. But overall, I enjoyed Lisa Frankenstein, and I would highly recommend this movie to anyone. I believe there is a lot of fun to be had. I heard one person kind of describe this as a Tim Burton movie if Tim Burton was still able to make the movies that he used to make. That might be a little bit too harsh of a criticism towards Tim Burton. However, I understand the point that they were making, because it does have that Tim Burton Gothic style that made him so popular in the 80s and 90s. And being someone who grew up with Tim Burton films, I have to say that even if this film can be at times described as maybe a bit too Tim Burton in feeling and style, which it is. There are definitely stuff where I'm just like, okay, I've kind of seen this in other Tim Burton films, and I feel like it is paying homage, maybe too overtly of homage to Tim Burton. I still had a good time watching it, and I can recommend it. I'm able to get this film to 3.5 out of 5-star review here on the Beneverse Movie Channel. So, thank you all for watching this video, and if you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe to this channel for more reviews coming at you real soon. Take care. My name is Ben Friedman. Take care. Bye-bye.